Hello, good evening, everybody. What's up, our friends and family from around the universe? You are listening to Live It Out live stream with John and Jennifer Garrick, where we unapologetically lift up the ways of Jesus. We promote grace, and we strive to learn, think, and live like Jesus Christ. We believe in a triune God who loves us and calls us to live out the good news where we live, work, and play. And we're going to talk about that tonight. Our subject matter is Jesus is a realtor. Yes.
And you're all on here going, wait, what?
What? Someone told us this last week. They said, oh, that's kind of a provocative, weird, and strange title. And we said, good. Yeah. That's what we wanted, because we're going to talk about that tonight. We all come from different stages of life from around the world. Speaking of around the world, I was with our guest several years ago. We were at coffee with some Ugandan pastors, and they called David, he's a realtor. They called him, property master. Property master. Yeah, that's what you are. In Uganda, David, you're not a realtor. Master. You're a property master.
Nice.
So anyway, but whatever background we come from all around the world, the goal is for us, as we stated in our intro, is just to learn and to grow in this idea of following Jesus and emulating his ways and understanding what it means to be loved by him and be his beloved and to love him more. And so, yeah, wherever you're at, just know that we love you and we're looking forward to growing with you in that. And we also just want to remind you about how to interact with this medium. So Jennifer, help them out.
If you are enjoying your time with us and the community experience that we're having together, we want to encourage you to share with others. Encourage them to join the conversation. So share with somebody. Share with people.
Okay, not that kind of share. Is that what you're saying? Not that kind of share.
No, but I'll bet, okay. You know what? You're going to remember to share now, aren't you? Share. And always, be sure to hit that subscribe button or that bell if you're on YouTube, and you'll always want to hit like and follow us. We just love getting together with you each week, and we want this to grow. We want to share it with more people so they can be encouraged as well. So get out there and share it with your friends, and we're just glad that you guys
share. That is the key.
Share it.
Okay, now you know. All right. I think we even got a smile out of Dave in the green room, maybe. I think with the little share, though. You can't see him, but we can. We can see him in there. Now he's rolling his eyes. Okay,
like,
not good,
man.
not good.
He's like, let's get back to the property master.
No doubt. All right, well, listen, we want to remind you as well, friends, that we love having you interact. This is not like a podcast, although many get this in the restream. We're seeing a lot more people listening and watching restream, meaning not live tonight, but later tonight or tomorrow, catching it later. Yeah. But many of you are live, which we love. And we're seeing those people. We see them popping up right now. We even say, and Aaron, hey, glad you are back. He just said hello from Atlanta. Thanks also, Aaron, for the music that you sent over. And you're just reminding me right now, everybody, that we're open to suggestions when it comes to intro music. We've been sharing for the last couple of weeks. We'd like a couple little more intro, but we got to have royalty-free music because there's a lot of songs that we love. We'd like to use different songs for the intro, but unfortunately, they'll
silence us immediately.
Yep. If we do a copyrighted song, it's like, zip, gone. So any genre, upbeat. I mean, we probably don't want, I am an opera and classical fan, but probably not the intro on that. Probably some little hip hop or, something's got a little kick to it. Something that's just, there's some gospel, something. Energy. Yeah, it's got some energy cranking out there in the beginning. And if you've got a good Hawaiian one, we like that. Our intro now has kind of got a little hint of kind of that.
That one kind of reminds me of New Zealand.
It does in New
It
Zealand.
has kind of a New Zealand flavor.
I don't even know what that sounds like.
I don't either, but I always think of New Zealand when I hear it. So.
All right. Hey, Addie got our joke. Share. Yes. Oh, she even added 2 shares. Man, I got to get more pictures. Share. But she's right. Share, guys. Get it out there and let people know. And I love the fact Addie's really good at this, and she's always just, since she's on, I'm seeing a few in a row, please feel free to comment anytime during the live. I like that you guys are actually interacting. It doesn't even have to be us that remind you. Addie's coming from Facebook, but just to remind you that we have people coming from Twitter, not many, but a few from Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So those are the 3 platforms we are, but fortunately, we've got the ability in our software that we can see them all coming through. So sometimes our eyes veer over here because we've got this big monitor in front of us.
We've got all kinds of things that we're looking at over here.
Yeah, and you can see them, can't you, hon? It's like right there, Kelsey. Whoa, tuning in with mom and dad, David and Mandy as well. That's family. So cool. Glad you guys are coming in from Bozeman. That's awesome. So lots of different people coming in. And last week, I don't know, we just had a great time interacting. Loved people sharing. Okay, sharing and interacting. And that, again, I want to remind you, that's the difference. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right.
So what happened this week?
Highlights.
Do we have any highlights to talk about?
Well, let's talk about this coming week. So this is the time in the show where we give a little bit of highlights of what's going on with Eternal Impact and our major sponsor, which is Eternal Impact. Headed out to Sisters this week, the unnamed Home on Wheels, which we are currently in. And I want to remind you that is also our truck. So we've got the big silver truck. That's even been one of the number bullet, silver, Big Jake, Bruno. A few suggestions have been put out there for the name of the truck, and a few names have been put out there for the RV. Some really good ones, and some lame ones. So we've got names coming through. We're going to be posting in the next week or so. We did finally put the video tour as requested by everyone. Yes, we got it. And we put the video on Facebook. So you can check out the John and Jennifer's Facebook pages, and you can see the video tour of the thing. Sorry, the audio got a little tweaked on that. I don't know what that was. I was going to go back and adjust it. It was like, that was too much work. But anyway.
At least you can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. You got a tour, and it kind of gives you, what's grooving on with the rolling home. Yeah. But names. So we're going to have a contest coming soon. You don't have to give them tonight, but if you want to throw them tonight, that's great. Yeah. I see one coming through. Yes, she likes the Ark.
I like
yes,
the
Kelsey.
Ark too,
I agree. That's Jennifer's.
I've been calling it the Ark all
You guys
along.
are trying to vie for that name. I think that's what it is. Okay, so that's one thing. We're heading with the unnamed Home on Wheels to next week to Sisters. It's going to take its maiden voyage down to Central Oregon, and we're going to be having guests Brian and Marianne Remsburg, our friends from Adventurous Life. You're going to be excited to hear what's going on with them, and we're going to be talking about living out the gospel. They're professional coaches and friends. It's going to be great. But we're also going to be scouting. Yes, we are scouting down in Central Oregon, because it's to no surprise to anyone that that is one of the locations that we are really dialing into when it comes to a potential retreat home, where we will transition from this rolling home in the next year or two to identify where God wants us to establish a retreat space for leaders and to be able to love, listen, and serve them for the years ahead. So that's what's going on. And then, of course, then we're going to be coming to you a couple weeks after that. I think we're taking a week off. I don't know. We'll get you a schedule. Yeah. But then we're going to be doing a retreat in Maui. We're going to be doing, we're going to do a week's vacation in Maui. Double yay. And then we're also the third week in Hawaii. It won't just be Maui. We'll be meeting and scouting with others. So we're not sure what island or where we're going to be coming from yet. That last week, I think maybe it's the first week in November, but that'll be cool. Okay, so it'll be from Hawaii somewhere, and we'll
try to pick a really pretty spot.
Yeah, and maybe a place that's doing retreat ministry. It'd be cool if we could dial that in. So we'll try to do that.
Checking it out. We're coming from all kinds of places.
Yeah, so very cool, and love it. So if you're interested in more, just go to eternalimpact.org, eternalimpact.org. All the information's there, and it's going to be getting updated here in the next couple days. Newsletter comes out, I think, Monday. So if you're not signed up for the newsletter, please hop on eternalimpact.org, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get that right to your email.
Lots of stuff in there. You won't want to miss out on that.
Yeah, and for those, we want to thank our sponsors. For those that are sponsors of Eternal Impact, you know who you are, and we just want to say thank you. This show, everything that we do, the leaders that we're loving and caring for, none of that could happen if it wasn't for partners coming alongside, and you champion us and the gospel through us, so thanks. We love you, and we appreciate it. And everyone here that's listening tonight, know that it's thanks to those sponsors we're even able to gather like this and do this. So if you are a financial partner with Eternal Impact, you will be getting that newsletter. It comes directly to the mail to you, so you get a print copy of that just to kind of have. Some people just get it by just signing up, and that's all you got to do if you want the email version. And again, you can do that at eternalimpact.org. All right, well, Flashback. Last week, oh my gosh, honey, I went right through. I looked at our little thing. Look, you were supposed to be talking about sponsors.
I think I'm going to get you tested for color blindness.
Oh my gosh, you're even green, and I'm still kind of bitter that you've got that cool turquoise color, and mine's just yellow.
You just get on a roll, and you just want you. I'm just going to sit back and let you do it.
Do you want to do Flashback?
No, you've got it. No, I gave that one to you. You're all prepared for that.
You're amazing. I love you. Thanks, extroverted.
I really
freak
do
as a husband.
prepare to say things occasionally, but you know, I mean,
you're introducing David. Okay,
I
you ready?
am.
You're doing
if it's blue, it's me.
Okay,
Yellow
you're on it.
Is you.
You're on it. You're on it. Okay, so here's the deal. Flashback. Every show we do a flashback to last week's show, and we do something, a highlight that had a lot of comments. And that here's what it is. We talked about leadership last week, and we had Carolyn on many subjects around what's happening in the lives of Christian leaders right now.
That was a good show. I really enjoyed that conversation.
It was good. Yeah, I agree with
Carolyn, if you're tuning in, thanks for being our guest. It was fun.
Yeah, it was good. And thanks for everyone that participated. Here's what the highlight that came back last week. No leader walks alone. Okay, that's the flashback. I want you to think about that. No leader walks alone. If you are isolating as a leader, now, and you know, when we talk leaders, we're not talking about executives. You don't have to be elected to a high office. A leader's a dad, a mom, an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, any aspect of our life where God's given us opportunity to love and influence people. And here's the deal. If we're alone and isolating ourselves, we're putting ourselves in jeopardy. Now, I'm just going to say it straight out. I talked to Honest last week. The stats are out. We shouldn't be walking alone. Community is so essential for our life. We might get into that a little bit tonight when talking with David, but the reality is that's the flashback from last week. God called us to live in community, have people around us that can speak into our lives and we can speak into theirs, that we can walk in the light, as it says in 1 John, walk in the light as he is in the light. And if we do, he will forgive us for all our transgressions and he will give us fellowship. That word in the Greek is koinonia, connectedness at a deep spiritual level with other people. It's beyond even friendship. And so I'm just encouraging you, if you're wanting to live it out, and you're leading, that's the flashback from last week. None of us walk alone. None of us. So we'll have more shows on that specifically because it's such a epidemic, if you will, within leadership right now in the Christian community. But that's the flashback. And I just want to remind you, you're loved deeply. And if you are finding yourself walking alone, then you need to reach out now and send me a personal message through Facebook or send me a message at office@eternalimpact.org. And you need to let us help you get connected where you are in your community. Now, we're not over-promising. I can't fly in. I can't be there, to every space. But what I can do is I can bring this need with you before a living God who loves you. And we can do everything within our power to connect you to the right space and the right people to journey with you in your faith journey. Mm-hmm. So don't stand alone, bro. Don't stand alone, sis. Have people with you.
Get some people around you.
Yeah. So that's the flashback for this week. And so I'm not going to go much into the breakdown for tonight because the show is entitled Jesus is a Realtor. We want to introduce you to our friend David because we love him to pieces and he's a rock star in our eyes and in God's as well. And so we want you to get to know him as well. You might even have some friends that are on here that already know David. You can chime in as well. Send us a message during that time. But Jennifer, introduce David and then let's go live with him.
Yeah, so tonight we're excited to welcome our guest and longtime friend, as you've heard, David Rains. And David has quite a testimony from his encounter with God while he was living on the streets of LA, all the way to the life that he lives now as a realtor for 24/7 properties. He's passionate about the Lord, and he's a dedicated husband and father and worker. David and his wife, Blaine, have been married for 3 years, and I remember 3 years ago traveling down to Southern California to do their wedding, and that was such a fun time.
Just wedding anniversary 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was right this time. Hey, happy anniversary. That's awesome. Together, they have a beautiful blended family with 2 amazing children, Sasha, who's 12, and Lazarus, who is 1.5, and darling. So, David, welcome.
Welcome, bro. I think we're bringing you on here. I got so excited about hearing all about you. I forgot to switch over.
Bring him in.
I almost went to more share pictures. I mean, it could have been brutal. So
there he is.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh man, you look great. We had a chance to hang out a little bit before we went live and get everything dialed in technically, but we're really looking forward to just hanging out. And as we talked a little bit before the conversation, or before we started the live stream, and our audience knows that as well. That on there, we're just having a conversation about what it looks like to live out the gospel. I mean, it's real clear.
Keeping it real.
Yeah, and we know that we are not. We totally know that it's not okay. David, tell us how everything's supposed to be, and you've got it all together, and everything's perfect, and it's great. No, we have you on here not because of your perfection, but because of your aspiration, and because we do see through that imperfection the ways of Jesus oozing out of your life, and we just love you, and we like you. We don't just love you. We actually like you. I like being around you. And,
like you
maybe it's just because you're willing when we go do some kind of exercise or something together to slow down for the old man. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. It's just, you're always so kind. You're always so kind to me. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Jennifer, why don't you start us out? Any kind of questions, things you want to do?
David, so when we met you, I was trying to think, like, is it 10 years ago, 8 years ago? It's been many years.
8,
now.
It's been at least 7.
I think it's 7.5. I was kind of thinking back there, 7.5.
Well, either way, you were a baby Christian, really. I mean, you were just fresh in the Lord, and you were carrying quite an amazing testimony of God's grace. So just because it's such a really cool and interesting story, and I do believe we could do an entire show of just that journey that you went on. But for our listeners, could you give us it in just a little nutshell of how you came from the streets of LA to where you are today, married, working as a realtor, living life with the Lord? How did you get here?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for having me on. Well, let's see. It starts back in Los Angeles. So I grew up in Los Angeles to a single mom and my brother. And we grew up pretty poor, inner city Los Angeles, got into a lot of trouble. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I didn't go to church too much, but my grandmother would take us to church sometimes. It was kind of like, pretty cultural sort of thing. I remember she actually wrote a newsletter today, and I talked about this. I remember her buying us these baggy suits from Goodwill. And so we'd wear these super baggy suits to church, and then afterwards we'd get Sizzlers and get some little chicken nuggets.
Nice.
So those are my kind of like early like church stuff, but we never talked about Jesus or about God. We really just kind of showed up. And then, so I grew up in the inner city, grew up super poor, got into a lot of trouble. To make like the story really quick, I was in and out of jail most of my life, probably about, the first time I went to jail was probably 14. So I probably spent a good 7 years going in and out of jail for various different crimes. And I'd say by the time I was 18, maybe 19, I was a full-blown drug addict. I was smoking methamphetamine, heroin, crack cocaine, ecstasy, anything I can essentially get my hands on. And then I became homeless. Obviously, it's hard to maintain, a decent life doing drugs. I became homeless. I was actually one of those guys that was holding a sign, and at a freeway, with just a sign asking for money. And one day, it's kind of weird, but one day I just picked up the Bible while I was homeless. I was doing drugs, and I started reading it, and it became really apparent to me that Jesus not only was real, but he was also God. And I never would have thought that before. Honestly, I would have thought it was like Jesus was some type of like conspiracy theory, I don't know, just like something the government made up or whatever. And I feel like God spoke to me like really clearly that He had a better plan for my life, and it wasn't doing drugs, and it wasn't stealing cars, and it wasn't, getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I did end up in jail once more for car theft, and I was reading my Bible trying to figure out this Christian stuff. When I got out of jail, I ended up going back to drugs, and I was in an abandoned apartment. And I remember clearly one night God saying, "Move to Portland, Oregon, and go into a rehab." And I didn't have any friends or family or anything out here, but I was pretty clear that's what God was asking me to do. So I took a bus to Portland, Oregon, got into a rehab. I was there for maybe 2 years. Got clean, got sober, met a gentleman named Jeff Edmondson who got me into real estate. And then Jeff introduced me to you guys, and that's how I got connected to you guys. And then, yeah, here I am today.
Here you are
Yeah,
today.
so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, bro. And we want to make
So
sure
exciting.
just to acknowledge God's grace and
Yeah.
goodness in all things. I mean, he's just awesome. I mean, he's so kind. He's so loving.
Yeah.
He draws us first. And
Yeah.
David, I know you know this, man. He draws us in jail. He draws us when we're, heating up a line. He draws us when we're holding the sign. He loves us so much.
Yeah.
And to see the life change in all of us, but right now we're celebrating you. We're celebrating what God's done in you. And we're going to talk about what he's doing through you, as he's working through all of us to live out that, as we live out that gospel. But man, we want to just celebrate that. And thanks for just sharing so transparently and honest as to what's, grooved in your life over the last decade.
Sure.
And, and again, as we said, it's not that, okay, now I'm where
Now
I'm
life
at
is
and everything's
perfect for
perfect. I
him.
don't have any problems now. I mean, now I don't have any addictions. I don't have anything to worry about. I have no
Yeah.
temptations. It's amazing, but
I wish that was true.
Yeah.
don't we all at some level, but we're going to talk about that tonight. But before we jump into that, I just want to say, I wasn't going to plan on talking about this, but I think of you inspire me, bro. And here's what you do. And it happened yesterday. It happened yesterday. We hadn't seen each other for weeks, months. Actually, I don't think I saw you for over a couple months, but we were downtown Portland. We had an engagement there last evening and on the west side. And it was rough, man. I mean, from the waterfront to 10th, man, it's just getting rough down there. And, I've been around the city years, decades, and served down there, the rescue mission, all over. But man, the hurt and the pain that's just right on the front street there's rough. Even as we were coming down from the parking garage we would park at, the stairs, there's a beautiful young girl, probably 30. My heart's just wrenching. Here she is. She's got the spoon out. She's lighting it up. She's trying to heat up the drug. She's strung out. And I couldn't have had a rational, conversation with her, at that point. But man, I'm just praying as I go down the stairs. I got to rescue her. And in my own conscience, I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? It wasn't like a guilt thing, like, I need to go somewhere. It was just like, man, Lord, the unreconciled chaos that is all around us, man, they need the love of Christ so deeply. And I guess what I'm saying is I thought of you even last night in this way. God rescues all of us. He is a rescuer. He's a reconciler. Yeah. Now, we know we're free moral agents. We got to make some choices. We got to do it. But it's never, ever, ever too late. We may carry with us some of the scars, even the mental damage, and some of the things
people that we saw last night could have been the next David that God is touching right now, even.
Absolutely. And when we left the engagement we were on, we had another altogether. There was a fight that was breaking out, about to break out. I kind of verbally jumped into
the guy sitting in the middle of the road shouting at cars.
And it's just, but it's like, and the one of them was just strung out, and the other one was just self-centered, taking advantage of him. But I'm like, it's just chaos and hurt and pain. And what we want to talk about tonight, and I just wanted to mention that, briefly, because your testimony, it's not just you as a person, your testimony and the testimonies of many of my friends that have been rescued from, we'll just say the streets, because it could be anything. There's all sorts of perversions and stupidity that all of us have done, whether it's on the street or in the suburbs, right? Whether it's sexual addictions, whatever. We've all, been sucked into the void in that space where God's love is reaching out to us. So Anyway,
Yeah.
I was there, and again, I thought of you, and I celebrated you. I was in my mind, thank you, Lord, be with David wherever he's at, he's rescued. I'm just thinking that as I'm going through that and getting the gals in the car, because I had a couple ladies, Jennifer and another gal with us. And so anyway, it was just thanks for carrying your testimony and sharing it now with a lot of other people that are able to hear that and be reminded that God is a rescuer.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
He is. So anyway, hey, let's talk about, there's a new word that's, it's not new really. It's one that I've been processing a lot. It's a theological word. I was just, it's got other, it's not just theological, but simultaneity. Simultaneity. In other words, two things happening at the same time. And when we use that in a theological sense, it's the idea of, I'm reading a devotional writer from about 120 years ago, and now he was a Quaker. I can't remember his name right now. It's terrible. I should have had those notes out. But anyway, he talks about this idea that simultaneity is that God has called us to walk the redeemed life, to learn what it means to be God's beloved and to love him more. And yet he's also called us to run meetings and sell houses and wash dishes and take out the garbage and, have challenges. And he's called us into all of those things, but he's called us in that great mystery and that great tension to do that together. And it comes out sometimes in scripture, like when Paul says, pray continually, pray without ceasing. Does he mean stop, no longer go to school? Or does he mean learn what it means to experience the breathtaking love of God in our life and his voice and listening to him into everyday things, even at your locker,
him into everything.
Right? Yeah. At your locker at school or wherever that is. And that's really what we want to kind of talk about tonight. I mean, I'm throwing that simultaneity, that name around it, but I know you, and I know in our audience, we're all committed to learning what it means to live out the gospel. So I'd like to just talk with you tonight just a little bit about that. Is talk to us about what that looks like for you, kind of right now. Keep it fresh. Could be the last week, could be the last 6 months, whatever. But just what's that looking like and fleshing out in your life? And is that something you wrestle with? Is that something that's real for you when I say that? Just the floor. Talk to me about what you're thinking.
Yeah, what comes to mind when you talk about that word that I will not be able to pronounce, it is essentially, it sounds like to me like walking with God. And so it doesn't matter if I'm at work or if I'm at home, if I'm washing dishes, just living life in general. It's just, what does it look like to walk with God wherever I'm at? And so I could just kind of give some examples of what that looks like for me. And I do wrestle with it. Essentially, okay, God, how can I do this better? Or I cowered out at times when I feel like God's calling me to say or do something, and I obviously, and I don't do it because I have fear or something. But I'll share, like, this last week, for me as a realtor, like, what does it look like for Dave to walk with God? At least what I think is walking with God. So I just started a new business about 4 months ago, still in the real estate space, but I started a land development company with one of my previous clients, actually, who's a builder. And he came to 24/7 Properties as a realtor. Then we decided to start his land development company. So I've known him for several years, helped him buy and sell, a bunch of homes. And he's not a believer, but I built, a really good friendship with him over time. And so, over the last couple of months, I've been asking God, like, hey, God, what do you want to do here? Like, what do you want to do with this guy? Like, how can show me ways I could share your love with him, ways I could share my testimony with him, ways that I could serve him that will glorify you. Like, I need your help here. What do you want to do? And just recently, before we had our first kind of big meeting with the prospect to purchase their land, I said, hey, Jeremy, do you mind if I pray, before we go to this meeting? Are you cool with that? And he's like, yeah, sure, if you want. So we pray, go to the meeting, and we go about our business. And then our next meeting, I asked him the same thing. He's like, yeah, that's cool. And then we had another meeting, and I just forgot. Like, I just forgot to pray. And I was trying to be intentional about it, obviously, but I just forgot to do it. And after the meeting, he goes, hey, man, I noticed that, this time you didn't pray for the meeting. I really enjoy and appreciate when you pray before we go to meetings. And I was like how weird and random is that? I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I've had like a lot of opportunities to share my faith with him. And since I built a good friendship with him, I'm able to like ask provocative questions. Like I'm like, hey, what's your political leaning? What do you think about this or about that? Like what's your worldview about? Like what do you think about religion? What do you think about this? What do you think about finances? What do you think about homosexuality? Whatever I can come up with in my mind that I'm interested in knowing like how he perceives it, I can ask those questions and it's not weird. And then from there, I can see where he's at and I can just walk with God through my relationship with him. Of, okay, Lord, what's next? Like, how do you want me to serve him? How do you want me to love him? How can I introduce you to him? Mm. So it's just like this last week, just something that I've been thinking about and that's kind of fresh in my mind of my goal. So this is why I think ahead too, like, okay, God, I want to baptize this guy. Mm. All right. I want to see him come to you. I want to, I gotta have some results, So like, I want this guy to confess Jesus as Lord and experience the change and the grace of knowing Jesus. And I'd love to baptize him. So will that happen? I have no idea, but I'm thinking about it. I think about it often. So
okay,
that's fresh this week.
Yeah,
I'm going to press into it. I'm actually doing a wardrobe change for the first time right here ever on a live stream right now. Wardrobe change. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Learning the temp on this trailer here. We're figuring it out. But no, what you said something there, and I want to come back to that. And that's the idea of why we pray, even in doing that. But I want to point this out for our listeners that may not know David as well as I do. And you're probably picking it up. That David is naturally, by calling and God's design, is an evangelist. Mm-hmm. He is so he's going to have a bent. When I say evangelist, we're all called to be witnesses and ambassadors of reconciliation. That's like Paul talks about that in 1 Thessalonians, and we're all called to that. It doesn't matter what our occupation is. But evangelist is not a job. It's a calling, it's a vocation, a calling, and it becomes natural. It won't be as natural for some of you listening out there as it is for David or possibly myself or others to be that intentional and have that evangelistic fervor, if you will, and kind of bent to do it. Yeah. But what I think is vital is that all of us are called to have an intentionality of how we're doing it, and that is really cool. So when we talk about prayer, let me just ask this thing about prayer, and then Jennifer, you may have some things too, just that they're coming to your mind. Mm-hmm. On prayer, I think it's interesting that we stop and pray. Now, David, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not stopping and praying so that our friend will hear us pray. We're stopping and praying because we really believe in that simultaneity. God cares about us, mm-hmm. and he has a deeper wisdom and discernment than we have. And that when we go into a business meeting or a classroom or whatever, when we tell our kids, hey, you should pray if you're having trouble with those friends in the cafeteria, or you're praying, it's not because, well, it's psychosomatic and it'll make you feel better, or maybe they'll see you praying, and that might be a fringe benefit, maybe that's another job. But you're actually praying before you go into a meeting because it matters. Mm-hmm. I mean, it matters. It's important. And you're looking.
And your friend is seeing that.
Yeah, and he's seeing it, which is a fringe benefit, right? That's another evangelistic benefit, that's going to be there as you're loving and serving him. Yeah. But I mean, does that make sense? I mean, it sounds to me like you're praying.
Yeah, I think it's multiple things. Like for me specifically in that moment. One reason why I prayed is because I was being obedient to the Holy Spirit. I feel like God was saying, before you go to the meeting, pray. Ask him if you could pray with him in the truck. Listen, I'm nervous to do this. It's weird, right? It feels scary, but I want to be obedient. I'm not always obedient, but at this moment I was.
Cool.
And okay, cool. All right, God's like, pray. I'm going to pray. The second thing is, I think it's also a way to plant seeds in kind of an evangelistic tool of, hey, I just want to pray with you, man. This is what I do as a Christian. I want to give this meeting to God. I want to trust that he's with us. I want to trust that if he wants to open his door for us, no one can shut it. And if it doesn't work out, I want to believe that God had a reason for that. He allowed that to happen. Thirdly, when, if we get the deal and things work out, or even if they don't work out, I want to be able to point back to God in later conversations and say, say it works out really well. It's like, dude, you see how God provided for us, man? How cool is that? Or if it doesn't, I can calm him down and say, hey, it's okay, dude. Like, hey, if it was in God's plan, we would have got it. It's all right, bro. Like, you can relax. And I've had both of these conversations with him. So I don't know. I see it just, of course, spiritually, but also practically. Just a way to practice my faith in front of someone that I want them to see how a Christian lives and talks and operates as well.
You're keeping it real.
That's good. And
Yeah.
I like what you're saying there too. You were, in your personality and your calling and the way God was calling you in that moment, you actually were being obedient. You were hearing him ask you to participate at that level in that. I think that's
so.
really cool too. Yeah.
Well, don't you feel like you have to be in that mindset though? Because I feel like the Lord is talking to us all the time. But for myself, I know if I haven't intentionally said I'm going to listen for the Lord's leading, I've probably missed all kinds of opportunities that were around me. And I've missed out on that blessing too. And I was going to say earlier when we were talking about your calling, being an evangelist, and I remember, David, when I was first getting to know you and you were so passionate about the Lord and you were like, I just don't understand why everybody's not sharing their faith like to everybody. and it just baffled you because you were wanting to tell absolutely everyone about Christ. And I just admired your boldness because I'm not bold like that. When I hear the Lord calling and prompting me to do things, he really has to nudge me sometimes to get me to step out of my comfort zone.
I understand. And, John, I really appreciate what you said that, this is my gifting that I'm walking in, because I was actually thinking about this before we started the podcast. It would be really immature in me to just assume, back to your point, Jennifer, a little bit, that like everyone's going to operate like me, and everyone's going to have my giftings. And I think I can help inspire and encourage people, but I think it would be a lack of humility and grace if I just expected everyone to operate the same. So I mean, I'm a salesman, naturally a salesman. God's gifted me in sales, so they kind of just go hand in hand for me, and I'm really good at sales.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense why God, uses me this way. And there's other people that are terrible at sales, so I think it'd be kind of inappropriate of me to be like, okay, Jennifer, go operate like how I do, and if you don't do it this way, then you're doing it wrong. But I hope that my the character or what I'm trying to do is encouraging you to operate in the way God has called you to operate.
Right. Because I will be able to reach people who might be intimidated by your enthusiasm as an evangelist and be like, whoa, back off, dude. Or, I'm a little quieter in the way that I interact.
A little quieter, let me tell you.
But the Lord uses all of us.
You got John. So John's
I know. I don't have to say much.
Me.
He's got the woo. He's got the sales. You two. I just let you two go, and I just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Well, I want to remind people, Jennifer, you have another question come up, but I just, in the time, want to remind there are things coming up on the thread and coming through. I want to remind listeners that this is the time. Feel free if you have questions for David, for us, anything, or comments, you just want to, give a comment out, make sure to let us know. And we want to read through those as we're interviewing here. We try and multitask and bringing those up. So continue to do that. Thanks for commenting and keep doing so. Really appreciate it. And anything else, Jennifer, you were going to ask? I got several things to do, but anything that comes to your mind?
Well, I don't want to rob the time for comments, but, I was also going to focus a little bit, David. We've talked a lot about your life in the marketplace and your dealings outside of the home, but, let's bring it into the home now. And what does it look like? I mean, you're a dad of a preteen girl, which that in itself is, that's a biggie. But then you're adding a toddler in there as well. Blaine is working, you're working, you got nannies, you got a lot that's going on. What if you are, what kinds of things are you doing to foster your spiritual richness and your spiritual growth? How are you integrating that aspect in your family and in your marriage? And maybe you guys are struggling with it. I don't know, but just thought we could talk a little about home.
I could share some things I think that, that we do to foster that, but I'll also say we are also struggling too. It's difficult. If I think about like the life I want to live spiritually with my family, I'm definitely not living up to those standards of my own standards. But I think we do practice living out our faith at home and in our community as well. And I think I could better answer that question with a story. It's probably best. And so, I don't know, one way I think with my family at large is I think the word I describe what we do is intentionality. So, if we have dinner with people, or if we're inviting people over, or if we're in our community, there's an intentionality involved. So, for example, my daughter had one of her friends over last night, and her friend is she's trans. She's 12 years old, and she identifies as a male. She thinks she's a boy, I think, something like that.
Tough.
And when Sasha told me about this friend a week ago, and they're really good friends. They like each other, blah blah blah. I said, hey, what we should do is we should have her over for dinner. Now I could have just said, let's have her over for dinner, and I would have this plan in my head. But instead, I, chatted with my family, with my wife and my daughter, and say, hey, I think this is why we should have Eddie over. Eddie's going to assume, because we're Christians, that we hate her and that we're bigots and that, we don't love her or whatever. And, and I was telling my daughter, like, even though we could be, confused about someone's lifestyle or maybe even disagree with it, it doesn't mean we treat them any differently than we're going to treat anybody else. We're going to love and serve them. I was like, so it'd be cool if we brought Eddie over and we love her well, we serve her well, and she knows we're Christians, and she could see like, oh, not all Christians are going to hate me. They're not going to treat me differently. They're not going to whatever. And then I talked to her dad. So we brought her over for dinner, and I talked to her dad, and I just brought the conversation up. I said, what's your religious or spiritual bent? I'm just curious. He was like, I don't know, we're probably more spiritual. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, I asked because Sasha goes to this, youth group, middle school, at church. She seems to like it. It's like all girls, and Eddie's more than welcome to join if you're comfortable with it. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. Actually, my girlfriend and I have been thinking about maybe checking out a church here in Newburgh. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. Okay, well, God, what do you want to do here? And so I'd say, I guess, to answer the question, as a family, is just being intentional when we're hanging out with people or when we're doing things, that and try our best to bring God into it. And me not just doing things and being like, a secret Christian, but like explaining to my family why we live, why we give a certain way, why we do things a certain way. So I don't know. I could also tell you, like, yeah, we pray on Tuesdays together before dinner, but I feel like this is more, exciting to me. When we have
that's good.
I mean, you're just walking out life. You're showing by example, which I think can often go deeper than just our words. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, I want to go to a question that was brought up and a comment that was brought up online, and I'll bring it up here in just a second. But David, the word that just jumps out at me that you were talking about, and we talk about it, live it out a lot.
Yeah,
and that is intentionality.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you using that word and emphasizing the fact that it's not about the way in which you do it, because we have to listen to the Lord. It may be different for other ways. He calls us to love different neighbors in different ways, and our children in different ways, and all that. But there's an intentionality that's saying, okay, I want to be aware. I want to be conscious that God may want to be using me in a situation. And in that situation, you were able to make it very practical, and not only model it for your kids, but actually invite them to love alongside you. And it gives you opportunity to pray about it together, before dinner, before whenever those times are, but just that intentionality to demonstrate love. And that's big, because sometimes that's what it takes for us, right? I mean, it's like just an intentionality, because if we don't have that, we just don't do it. It's just, we lose that.
I could miss the opportunity. I really want Eddie's struggling with her identity, man. And how cool would it be if she got to experience Jesus' love and understand how much, our Father loves her, and how he's given her an identity. And, I don't know what's going to happen or if this leads to anything, but just being able to open our door as a family and invite her in and build a relationship with her dad. Dude, this could be life-changing. I mean, this literally could be life-changing. And if we could play a part in it, like, how blessed would we be? And it's actually not, it's scary, but it's not like, it's not as difficult as I make it in my head. It's just like, just come over for dinner, just hang out. Like, I'm not going to preach at you. I'm just going to hang out and build a relationship with you and see if I can find opportunities to share the gospel in different, unique ways that I think make sense, within the situation. So yeah, I don't know. It's pretty
good,
exciting. It's fun.
Yeah, thank you. That's good. And we can be so judgmental at times as Christians about, which person we want to love or whatnot. And God says, all of them, everybody.
Right. He loves them all.
He loves everybody. And I think that, especially with identity, it's one thing for us to say, okay, someone's struggling, especially young people right now, with their sexual identity because all of the information that's being shoved at them from every direction.
So
but,
confusing for
I've
them.
been around grown men and women who are struggling with their identity. It may not mean sexual identity. I was recently with it was a little while ago, but I was with a CEO of a company that we were talking at a restaurant, and we were talking about, just kind of some spiritual direction and just when I talked to him about God's deep love for you, for him at the time, and being able to put all the other stuff back and him just capturing it was like a moment that he got it. And he's like, that's what I need to be reminded of. He was struggling with his own identity, who he was as an executive, who he was as a dad, who he was as a husband. But it was his identity as a child of God, as a redeemed in the community of the beloved. It was incredible. And it's easy to say, oh, well, that's a different identity crisis. Well, it is different, but it's still wrestling with our identity and who we are in Jesus. So whether it's our kids' friends or our own children or anything, it's an opportunity for us to love them, be intentional, and remind them who they are. So anyway, I want to get before, the show goes by so fast, and I don't want to miss. Aaron is coming in from Georgia, actually, and he says this. He said, I'm just going to bring it up here on the screen so they can see it. He said, I like what David about how to talk to his friends and not preaching to him, but more asking, like praying with him, asking what he thinks. I know God has been calling me. And I think that's really cool. He continues to say, calling me to tell somebody about Jesus. I haven't really known how to start that conversation. And I think what you were saying is a real encouragement to Aaron. And Aaron, I just want to encourage you as well.
Yeah.
Buddy, thanks first of all for your honesty and the realness of your comment. There's a courage in what you just wrote up there that many other people that are listening and watching can identify with.
They resonate with that.
Yeah, they totally can resonate with that. Jennifer and I can resonate with that, buddy. And I'm sure David can. Yeah, absolutely.
All of us.
And so I just want to say thanks, David, and thanks, Aaron, for bringing that up, because that point is worth highlighting before we wrap up, that there is, we don't have to be preachy. We don't have to have a sermon. We have to allow our lives to reflect the deep love that God has for us and the grace in which he gives us day in, day out, moment by moment. And that's where that simultaneity, okay, for David, you're going to practice that one. Simultaneity.
That was a new word for me tonight too.
Yeah, but to be able to know that God does care deeply about us and wants to speak in our lives, whether we're in the classroom, the cafeteria, the boardroom, our living room, the streets. He wants to speak, and he's drawing us, and he's not calling you to be like David or to be like me or to be like Jennifer. He's calling you to have an intentionality and an openness. And other shows coming up, we're going to be able to talk about what does it mean to listen to God. That's a subject that's coming up in the weeks ahead. What things can we do in our lives to open up our spiritual eyes and ears, to be able to have a sensitivity to a triune God in that day to day. And we're going to talk about that. There's some practical things that we can do. I am still well over a half a century old, still learning and growing in that. And so we're going to learn together. We're going to learn on that. And it's important as we learn to hear his voice and respond. So anyway, thanks, Aaron, for that comment. And we didn't get to all the other comments on there, but we love hearing from you. And if we can answer some others offline, we will. But we really love that. And David, we absolutely love you. And your beautiful bride and your kids. And I know that one of them, I think your bride's off working or doing something tonight. And, but tell her hello for us. And then also, you let Sasha know that she's a rock star for watching Laz, when you're up, there. And I think you even have people at your home right now that are coming over for some community group or something, don't you?
They're down there right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Doing something. I'd rather be hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, I hope they're not watching live right now on the Live It Out live stream.
Them to watch, are you?
Yeah, no wonder we didn't want to get those
David,
people
you were
in.
supposed to share.
Nice. Well, okay, we have got to wrap up this section of the show because we've got to get to some dad jokes and some ending things we got to do. And we are diligent for always ending our show at 7:00 every single night Pacific time. Well, okay, we're a minute over last week.
Right. But it was a good minute. It was a solid good minute.
But hey, bro, thanks again for your willingness to walk in the light with us and hang out on the Live It Out live stream.
We owe you coffee.
Yeah. Oh, man, I don't even know if we owe them, but I just want it with you. I just want to hang out with you and see you. So,
come to our tiny home.
Yeah. Cool. All right, buddy. Hey, thanks again so much. We appreciate
love you guys.
On behalf of everybody,
love
thanks.
You too, David. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Wow, really cool to have David with us tonight, and just appreciate him a ton. And again, thanks for all those, for commenting, for being a part. It really was cool, and I like the fact that it's practical. You know, again, we're
all learning.
Yeah,
none of us have it down perfect. We're all just practicing and learning. And we sharpen each other. Hearing his testimony inspired me on some things like, oh, I could do this or that for somebody, and so iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what this is all about.
You know, and we let him go before you were doing dad jokes. And didn't you say tonight
I
had mom joke about like realty or something like that?
Well, in honor of real estate.
In honor of real estate.
I have some house jokes. I couldn't find any good ones for realtors, but I do have a couple of house jokes. So are we ready for that?
We're ready. I'm looking at mine right here. Hold on.
So what do you call a pirate who designs houses? An architect. I love that one.
Oh,
okay, and they say that this house is haunted. I don't get it, though. I mean, I've lived here for 245 years, and I've not seen anything strange.
Okay, you are weird. Okay, that one. That one's okay, but mainly, maybe. I don't know. That's not bad. Okay, hey, how do you plan a party in outer space?
I don't know.
Planet. Nice. All right. What was the other one I had here? I can't remember.
Well, you didn't have it ready.
Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's for all those tech geeks out there. Okay, for sure. Hey, what does your baby computer call his father?
I don't know.
Dada.
Dada. Ah.
Dada. Get it? Dada. Oh, man. Okay. All right. Well, listen, we are coming to that point at 7:00, but we always want to end, of course, with a little laughter because that's good. And we always love your dad jokes. We haven't gotten dad jokes in a while, by the way.
Yeah, send us some. I mean, we're having to jump on the internet. Come on, you guys. Send us some good material.
Good material because, you know, besides, I just need good dad jokes, you know, because I'm a dad.
Send us that and send us some potential names.
That's
for
right.
Our rolling arc.
Yep, and we'll be getting that out, so fear not. We will be getting the
I think we're going to make a contest out of it.
We'll get it out. We'll put it out on Facebook, probably, on Facebook. So if you're not Facebook, you're just going to have to remember, if you're coming to us from YouTube or Twitter, I don't think we'll put it out through there. We'll just do it on Facebook. But if you got a good name for the truck, the 2018 silver gray beast of a truck. Can't call it beast because that was our other vehicle that we just sold. We call it beast.
That thing is so big I need a ladder to get into it.
It's pretty awesome. And then our Montana fifth wheel, got to come up with a name for that too. So there's some good ones going around there. So anyway, we'll put the word out and you'll get it. But thanks for interacting with us live or listening on the Restream. We created this venue to provide a practical and interactive way to help you and others live out the gospel.
So if you love our show and you stand with our mission, please consider giving a tax-deductible donation to eternalimpact.org.
Until next time, friends, we genuinely pray that the joy of life and the gift of His grace will be tangible in and through you as you live it out.
Live it out.
Live it out. You're loved. And we'll see you next Thursday. And we see some of those messages coming in. We'll be responding to them for a few minutes here
stick around.
before I eat dinner. because I am
Ooh, yeah.
looking forward to that. So
Have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next week with the Remsburgs.
all right. See you then. Night, everybody.